Today on Near Mint Condition, we finally get around to talking about Star Wars.
Specifically Star Wars Rogue One, coming out December 17th.
And since you've already heard people talk about the characters and the story, we try to place it in the larger Star Wars universe, both in fiction and kind of in the meta universe of Star Wars.
You know which lightsaber's mine?
Which one?
The purple one that says bad mother...
Darmok and Jalad at Trinagra. His eyes red.
What the heck are you even talking about?
Tina.
The beast.
Tina. Star Wars.
It's a trap.
Star Wars.
Yeah, the cool one.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Sorry.
So today we're going to talk about Star Wars Rogue One, what we what we want to see in it, and Star Wars in general.
The exciting thing is that, since Disney bought it, of course, in 2014, we have seen a huge expansion of the already pretty damn expansive Star Wars universe. The difference now is that since, I guess it's September 2014, it used to be that you had the 3, then the 6 movies that were canon. And there was all kinds of other stuff, the old Marvel comics, and then like the Heir to the Empire that kicked off all the book series.
Books, right.
And then the Dark Horse comic series.
And then the Droids and Ewoks cartoons.
The holiday special.
We don't talk
all
about
the
that.
different video
Make sure you
games.
check out the holiday special. It's on YouTube right now.
I actually know about the holiday special.
Maybe that's why you have such a tainted view of Star Wars.
It is horrible.
The rest of it's
Chewbacca's grandfather, Chewie, I don't even...
What's Chewbacca's grandfather's name?
I have no fucking clue.
His name is
because I
Chewbacca.
got
Chewbacca's
so
grandfather?
drunk. I was just like...
How old were you? Your mother was a horrible mother.
She was on as much cocaine as Carrie Fisher was
So
during the
this is-
During the
Christmas
thing,
special.
Carrie Fisher knows a thing about cocaine.
But so now the greatest thing about the modern Star Wars era is that everything that is officially released, as I understand it, is canon. So the Clone Wars series and then the Rebels series, but then also all the novelizations, all of the comic books that Marvel's been putting out that are really, really good.
Yeah, the Darth Vader in the new Star Wars.
Yeah.
Or Jason Aaron's run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are
Phenomenal.
super good books. The thing about that, and where it gets a little weird, is that, for instance, in Star Wars Rebels, the Disney cartoon show, or the CG cartoon,
Right.
they're bringing in Grand Admiral Thrawn, the bad guy from the Heir to the Empire books.
Yeah,
He's a character in Rebels.
I'm a visitor to your world. It occurs to me it might be beneficial to hear what you have to say.
So
That's cool.
it leaves a lot of we're not going to say whether that's continuity, and it's not, because now we've got Force Awakens, which has shown they've gone a different way
Right.
with the future. But the fact that they're mining that extended universe for current stories is a lot of fun.
Okay. So that's Disney, since Disney owns everything, Marvel, all this type of stuff, I guess they're trying to have a cohesive universe similar to what they're doing with the Marvel.
Exactly.
So they've kind of got a tight control on what they can release, so they can basically, instead of leasing royalties out to these companies and kind of having a loose grasp over what's going on, they have a finite and say, this is what we're looking towards. You need to follow this guideline.
Right. It's not just final approval. Well, one assumes. It's not just final approval. It is storyline guidance and moving everything toward how does this work toward our master idea of what Star Wars is and can be.
Right. So there's no George Lucas who's helming this. I hope there's someone that knows where everything's going.
Not the beat.
No, George Lucas still has...
No, George Lucas is out.
No,
Yeah.
he gets a check.
He gets a check, but he
it.
doesn't
That's
have
good
any
enough.
more.
That's executive producer.
But tonight, I want to focus in on Rogue One. This is the first Star Wars story movie, meaning it is a self-contained... Well, yes and no, because it's still in continuity, it's still canon, but it is a smaller story.
Okay.
This
Right.
is the story of the rebels, like from the opening of episode 4, right?
Where are those transmissions you intercepted? What have you done with those plans?
Yes.
The rebels that stole the plans to destroy the Death Star.
Right.
Spoilers!
Spoilers.
But, well, speaking of spoilers, though, in episode 4, she said that, what's her name?
No, Mon Mothma is not in episode 4. You're thinking of in Return of the Jedi, with the plans for the new Death Star.
Oh, and she said, they all did.
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Okay.
This is not that
So these
story.
cats could still be alive.
Yeah, this is the
I doubt
story.
it.
No, they're not.
Forrest Whitaker's so dead.
It's
This-
sort of sidestepped.
Well,
And so-
yeah. Well, no, it's not sidestepped.
Well,
it's just
all this is going on. This was what
It is-
happened
I thought
beforehand.
it was before. This
it
takes
is
place before.
right before.
Right before
Yeah.
episode
Star
4.
Wars.
New Hope.
A New Hope. So imagine this is, Star Wars opens with the shot of the Tantive 4 being chased by the Star Destroyer.
Yep.
Yeah.
This film, Rogue One, might end with Jin or whoever survives their escapades meeting up with
Princess Leia?
the blockade runner and Princess Leia to hand over the plans.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
I was just wondering how they can tie this into episodes, not just episode 4, but like later episodes, like episode 7, like The Force Awakens.
What
Is there
In relation to
what
Rey.
continuity
Well,
could there be?
actually, I'll tell you how.
Is there a relation between Jin
and Rey.
and Rey?
Actually, I don't think there's relation.
Because they could kind of do that.
All white people look the same.
They
could. Be
could.
wrong.
However, I think they are going for not so much relationships between characters, but relationships of looking at the Force, especially in a much broader way than
You
Jedi
mean sort of like
and Sith.
passing out these ideals and keeping them going within a sort of
Not
continuum
even
with the characters?
Not even that. I'm thinking more from a meta standpoint.
Like Donnie Yen's line. The Force is strong, and he's kicking all kind of IP man ass.
Right, but
From the
he's not.
this is based on the trailer. For now, this is really gonna
But they've
happen.
already said he's not a Jedi, right? So, and it's kind of like.
Oh yeah, we don't know who
We
the
don't know who the
Jedis
Jedi.
are.
Well, I don't think there are supposed to be any Jedi in this movie.
Maybe.
But
if this is Rey's
But in
mom,
The Force
maybe.
Awakens, you remember at the bar, and God, I can't remember that character's name. The
Big eye lady.
yes.
So, Maz
Yeah.
Defrons, whatever her name is, go ahead.
No.
So she, talks about, I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force, right? And this idea that there are people who are Force sensitive in other ways, and possibly other ways of thinking about the Force than just the Jedi way. And part of The Force Awakens, I like to think, is that there are the Force expresses itself differently through different schools of thought, right? So you have, and this kind of goes back, and we were talking about canon versus non-canon,
Right.
to some of like the old Dark Horse comics where the Sith were like magicians of illusion and things like that. That
Yeah, I remember
aren't
that in
normal-
Shadow of the Empire. It's
Yeah,
like a lot
that aren't like really
The N64 game?
Force
based on the comic books.
things that we've
Well,
seen in
series.
the main movies.
But
so what I'm hoping,
influential.
yeah. So what I'm hoping in terms of connecting Rogue One to The Force Awakens is just the idea that there are people out there who use the Force in different ways, but who aren't carrying around lightsabers
Sure, and that will make
and
sense that
who
you can
aren't
have the
who aren't lightsaber monks.
You have-
Right, you have the Force, but it's latent. Like, you may be influencing or exuding power, but it's not necessarily something that's active.
But I'm thinking even more so than like just latent Force powers. I'm thinking people who knowledgeably use and manipulate the Force, but again, who aren't lightsaber monks.
I got it. So you got the Pope who can use the Force. Then you have the Cardinals, and then you have the Knights of Columbus, right?
That's not how you use the Force!
If anybody can use the Force in the real fucking world, it's the fucking Pope. I don't think anybody has ever used that title for the Pope.
Scandal.
I apologize.
Really?
I'll have to do all kinds of like Hail Marys
tomorrow.
now. You got it.
So Rogue One is, like we said, the story of this small band of rebels who get together and steal the Death Star
Like the
plans.
text in New Hope.
Right, and it's also, you can look at it a couple of different ways. So we've already talked about connecting it to The Force Awakens. You can also connect it to the expanded universe of Empire and Return of the Jedi, because how I like to think about Star Wars, right, as part of the 3-part Star Wars Empire Return, is that Star Wars sets up this tiny little nugget of the universe, right? You have Jedi, you have Darth Vader, the Dark Lord of the Sith, even though we don't know what that means. You've got the Empire, you've got the Death Star. They blow up the Death Star. But that's not all. In Empire, it expands the universe. And then in Jedi, you get to see the whole, leadership structure of the rebellion with Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar and all these different characters who you haven't seen before, but who are implied to have been behind the scenes this whole time. So Rogue One brings Mon Mothma back into it.
And that actress, is that the same actress
It's the same actress from The Force Awakens.
Okay.
It's not the same actress from
Well, yeah, I can
Return of the
figure
Jedi.
that out. But it looks just like her.
Yeah, they did a good job.
absolutely.
Yeah, it looks just...
Yeah.
I was convinced.
So I like to think of it as a way of kind of putting it's almost like a funnel to get things to where they need to be set up for Star Wars, but also showing that Star Wars takes place within a much larger universe and other shit is going on. And I'm curious whether they will really do anything with it.
I'm thinking about that too. It's Jar Jar Binks, like if they're going to bring him back.
Fuck you. Is
Lisa, sorry, Annie.
have you watched any of Star Wars Rebels, the cartoons, the current cartoon series? So that
show.
You've got like a secret Padawan, and now his secret Jedi apprentice, and you've got Ahsoka Tano, hanging out as one of the leaders of the rebellion. The thing is, though, if we accept that at the beginning of Star Wars, Ben Kenobi and Yoda are the only Jedi left, because if we accept what Yoda says on Dagobah, when I am gone, the last of the Jedi will you be.
Right.
If we accept that as true, that means all those people are dead. In Rogue One of the band of merry rebels who are going on this quest is Saw Gerrera. This is the Forrest Whitaker character. But he is introduced in the Clone Wars, like the old TV series. So he is actually going to be a leftover character. And as it seems from the previews, he and Jen already know each other and have already been doing secret
rebel
tiny
stuff,
tiny rebel things.
I remember in episode 3 they did the same thing with General Grievous. They introduced him in the Clone Wars cartoon.
That cartoon was amazing.
And it was a good cartoon. And then he was in the movie. So you knew that was canon.
Right. And I guess that's true.
Because they had some dealings with the Jedi,
Right.
Did they ever explain why he was coughing?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Cigarette smoke.
So as I understand it, you've got basically Jen and Saw Gerrera as this tiny little just independent
Rebel squad.
We're gonna fight the Empire any way we know how, but they don't seem to be connected to the rebellion, the formal card carrying rebellion against the Empire led by Mon Mothma, right?
Yet.
Well, and Bail Organa and all those other folks who are still alive at this point. So the way they're portraying it in the trailers is that the rebellion finds her because they have gotten a message from her father, who happens to be one of the main engineers on the Death Star. He's I think he
one of the
is
architects.
Well, I think
Isn't he?
as I understand it, he is some sort of turbo laser specialist. He's the one who is
Turbo
responsible
lasers.
for creating.
No, he created
the weapon.
that stupid little vent hole.
The vent hole guy.
Yeah, I don't think
Put
he's
a
the vent
grate
hole
on
guy.
that.
He's the one that put the safety, make sure that you hit that button if you want to destroy the entire Death Star.
Right.
Just
it's
needs
like
to be
the tab.
X-wing.
That is some
if you
poor
take it off on a
design.
cassette.
Can you imagine hiring that asshole to design your building?
As an engineer, really? One laser shot right through there?
Well, I mean, that huge.
But you gotta. This is also a long, long time ago too. People were stupid
And it was
back
in a
then.
galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Sure.
no OSHA in the Star Wars universe.
And vents that tiny for that huge of a ship,
Well,
actually
and-
pretty good.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that's about the size of a Womp Rat. You can hit that with a
Yeah.
T-16.
400 meters away.
All joking aside about Jar Jar Binks, is there anything from episodes 1, 2, and 3 that you want to see in this movie to tie?
Darth fucking Vader. Ben Kenobi and Yoda hopefully do not figure into this movie. Because I
think it's already too much. This is a side story.
Yeah,
this is a side story, so I like that.
You have your main, like, tree, you know, the whole tree. Right. This is branching out to try to expand that universe.
And there's nothing in one that actually happened. There's nothing significant that happened in one to warrant it actually appearing in this Rogue One.
I'm just excited to see new colors, stormtroopers.
Well, and that's where I was going to go.
Because you want to buy toys.
Is that because they want to introduce new concepts and new toys, they have to keep it separate. Because why did we never see Death Troopers? Well, I think the in-universe explanation is going to be that the Death Troopers were specific to Orson Krennic, this Imperial commander who's in charge of getting the Death Star ready. And like there are those gray sand troopers that we're gonna see, who are specific to the planet where blah 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 blah, and they're the
I'm so glad you're our Star Wars guru.
The fancy new AT-ATs that we're gonna see. And, you know, also you have to keep in mind that it's a big universe, right? Just because we've been to Tatooine in every damn movie doesn't mean that...
That's the only planet there is in the universe, right?
Doesn't. But that's, you know, if there's a bright spot of the galaxy, that's
like,
where it's farthest
center
from.
of the
Basically,
universe.
you're saying that... Essentially, with this universe, there could be multiple planets, and each planet, because it's, you know, the Empire, there's certain specific units or troops that are stationed at each planet, or may function within a certain region.
Right, and so to keep...
Merchandising.
What's that? Merchandising.
Yeah, but to keep it plausible that, oh, we never saw any of this type of tech in the original movie, in Star Wars, you almost have to have that explanation of, well, different regions or different groups have different types of equipment.
That's such a smarter explanation than we blew it up. That's why we don't have no more.
Or they could simply say, well, this was outdated or older stuff, and when these movies came about...
Right, and it just happens to look so much cooler.
Yeah, it looks a lot cooler now.
Like that silver slick-ass fucking ship from episode 1. Yeah. Why didn't they use that? That looks cool. That's outdated technology.
Now we have, like...
We got Millennium Falcons. We kicked the shit out of the start.
Have you changed the oil filter?
But I really love that they are doing this at all. That they are saying, you know what, we can put out more movies, and they don't have to be just, look, it's the continuing adventures of Boba Fett. But it's actually, it's a, you know what? Rebel spies have stolen the secret Death Star plans. That's a neat story, and you kind of like, well, okay, we never heard anything more about those Rebel spies. Who were they? You know, did they die? Did anybody make it out alive?
Well, you know, George Lucas in like all these movies, he would always say things like, "Your dad was in the Clone Wars," or whoever was in the Clone Wars.
Right.
Yeah, little things like that you could totally go off.
Right, but the thing is, to get that, we had to get
episode 2.
Well, we had to get the big universe movie, right? And I love the idea that we can have these separate small movies, but also that, you know, but the fact that we have these separate small movies, really, to me, gives legitimacy to like the Marvel Comics and to all the news stories that are coming out, all these side stories. If we can have side story movies that are canon, that are the force of giant multimedia advertising gestalts, then that cool Vader down story in the comics, and you know, and like the characters like Dr. Aphora and all these other characters,
we could see them in movies.
They could show up in movies, but they are
even
also,
though I'll take it as a small cameo.
Yeah, but they are just as legitimate as these new characters, which I think is a great opportunity for this franchise. If we accept the fact that now that Disney has the franchise, it will just get bigger forever. I'm so thrilled we finally got to talk about Star Wars. Thank you for watching. You know what would be great? If you take this video and you share it with every single person you've met in your entire life. Maybe not young kids, but every other person you've met in your entire life. That would be really cool. Thanks.
We've gone out with Remix!
Nice!
Alright, where the hell is this from? That's one I do not know.
That's a plus the rhymes.